Thank you all so very much. Great to have everybody out this morning. A little bit chilly, but somebody's living right on this wonderful weather. You know, it's been a little more than 5 years since President Obama last visited West Virginia. Presidents in our state today addressed one of our most pressing issues, combating the growing drug epidemic. I sincerely hope, as part of the President's agenda to combat drug abuse, he recognizes the role that poverty, joblessness, and underemployment play in the big picture. Part of our efforts to combat drug abuse must be to create a stronger economy, which will create more jobs that can help people climb out of the vicious cycle of despair that often leads to drug abuse and addiction. Simply put, we must grow our economy, create jobs in our coal industry and every other industry that will provide hope and a brighter future for our citizens. The West Virginia President Obama visits today is far different than the one he did 5 years ago. Then, our unemployment rate was well below the national average. Today, West Virginia leads the nation in unemployment with a rate more than 2% above the national average. Even more troubling is that over the last year, our unemployment rate has continued to increase as we lost over 11,000 more coal and coal-related jobs. We're the only state in the country where less than half of the state's working-age population has a job. According to the West Virginia Coal Association, we've lost more than 8,000 mining jobs since the war on coal began. And let me be very clear, there is a war on coal. Add in the ripple effect on suppliers and local businesses, and it's no wonder that our state's economy is hurting. And this is a direct result of Washington's bureaucratic overreach. The effects have a far-reaching impact on our state and local governments as well. Today, West Virginia faces a budget deficit of over $250 million because revenues from the collection of severance taxes are $190 million less than originally estimated. Our local schools, our county governments are being forced to lay off workers. Our state bond rating has even been downgraded by at least one agency to negative. There was an editorial on August 5th of this year in the Charleston Gazette, and it referred to the war on coal as merely a very successful PR campaign with, quote, no truth to it. The evidence is very clear that there is a war on coal that is destroying West Virginia. I say to the Gazette, to the EPA, and to the President, come to southern West Virginia and let me show you what the war on coal is doing to our communities. Instead, President Obama now comes to West Virginia not to meet with the displaced coal miners or small businesses that have been shut down as a result of his war on coal, but to offer the federal government's help in fighting a drug epidemic that he helped to accelerate.
Amen.
We lead the nation in drug overdoses, and there can be no mistake about the correlation between the loss of our coal jobs and our growing drug epidemic. President Obama said in his remarks announcing the new regulations for the so-called Clean Power Plan, communities across America have been losing coal jobs for decades. I want to work with Congress to help them, not use them as a political football. Partisan press releases aren't going to help those families. With all due respect, Mr. President, the thing that'll help our families most is a job. A good job, a great job, right here in West Virginia. Not enough people are fighting for West Virginia, but I know she's worth fighting for, and I'm ready to lead that fight. Let's begin anew by replacing hopelessness with hope. Today, let's put an end to the war on coal. Let's get our miners back to work and start growing West Virginia's economy again. That light at the end of the tunnel, that's a coal miner's cap. God bless our coal miners, and God bless West Virginia. Thank you very much.
Well, good morning. It's an honor to be here. Certainly, I wish we were not having to be here to talk about what we're talking about today. But later today, as we all know, the president's going to be here, and there's going to be a lot of attention paid to his visit just a few blocks from here. That visit is going to focus on substance abuse, which, as we've all talked about and we all recognize, is a major scourge on our state. And I'm sure, as Senator Capito said, everyone here has been touched in some way by that crisis that we are facing in terms of drug abuse. We as lawmakers are focused on that. We are looking at ways in the upcoming session to address that. But there's one thing that I hope that the president can learn from his visit here today, and that is that the problem here is one that he helped create. And I think if you cannot look at this problem in a vacuum. You have to look at the conditions that led to where we are in terms of drug abuse in our state. And as many have said here today, that's largely because of the economic conditions in our state. The loss of jobs. And the loss of jobs can rest right at the White House and the Obama administration in this state. As Senator Cole has said, we have the lowest workforce participation. Less than half of our citizens who can work have a job. And due in large part to those economic challenges that we're facing, we also have one of the highest rates of drug abuse in our state and deaths from drug abuse. We've been working for a long time to address those addiction problems, but at every step, our efforts have been challenged by the Obama administration. That's where I hope that the president, when he comes and speaks with people today, will listen and realize the impact that his policies are having on hardworking West Virginians. It is ironic, and I saw one of the signs here, a couple signs that talked about hope and change. And it is ironic that the president talked about hope and change when he first ran in 2008. Well, there's no question he brought change to West Virginia. But he certainly didn't bring hope to West Virginia.
Amen.
In fact, he has increased hopelessness across our state. He has launched wave after wave of devastating, overreaching regulation, over-regulation with no basis in scientific fact. And those have directly caused the loss of thousands of mining jobs in our state. Week after week, we hear it, the headlines, warn notice after warn notice, people being put out of work. And as our miners lose their paychecks, others downstream lose their ability to work. Many people have lost their jobs. Businesses are have gone out of business. I've talked to a number of people here today that are in the crowd talking about the impact that it's had on their businesses. And this environment of despair truly creates a breeding ground for substance abuse. And no matter what the president's anti-coal supporters want to say, the challenge we're facing in drug abuse is related to the policies coming out of his administration. And that's why we're here today, to remind the president of the human cost of these policies. It's easy to sit in the White House in Washington and make these decisions based on what I believe is tremendously flawed scientific evidence. It's another thing to go out and look at the people in the eyes who you've put out of work. And I hope he will do that today and listen. We support Senator Capito and her and the members of our congressional delegation who are really standing up for coal in West Virginia, standing up for West Virginia. And we're working to make sure that we can do all that we can to help in those efforts. If we can get Washington off of our back and of our energy industry, we can start to turn the tide in West Virginia. As mines begin to reopen and people begin to go back to work, we'll be able to see additional investment in our state. Then we'll begin to see the hope that truly West Virginians will provide. President Obama is not going to provide that hope, but there is hope in West Virginia because of the people of West Virginia and their attitude, their hard-working efforts, and that's where our true hope is. And we need Washington to let that hope flourish in West Virginia. I urge the President to keep his eyes and ears open today and his heart open to, when he gets here, to listen to the people who have been affected by his policies in West Virginia. And he may not hear what we have to say here today. He may not, I'm sure he's not listening in, I'm sure.
Don't care either.
He may, hopefully will hear what we have to say, but if he won't listen to that, there's a voice that can't be silenced in this state. And it's right here, the people that are standing here with us today and the people that are standing all across this state saying, enough is enough. We need to be able to go back to work and truly energize our nation, keep the lights on, and truly provide hope for the future of West Virginia. We're going to continue to work every day to do just that, and we look forward to working with you. And we hope that the President will listen to this message today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. First of all, I'd like to thank Chris and the Coal Association, Bill, for inviting me down to this. And I'm very humbled to be asked to speak because I'm just an average coal miner from Preston County, West Virginia, and to be here in the presence of the Speaker and the Senate President and Attorney General and Shelley and them is a very humbling experience for me. As Chris said, I was down here Monday for interims and went back home, was at the mines, and Chris, he likes to give me a lot of notice, notified me at 3 o'clock last night that he wanted to know if I wanted to come and speak. And I said, well, you know, I'm working, I'm back to work, it's a 3-hour drive down, I'll see what I can do. And one of the guys was there and said, who was that? And I told them what was going on. They wanted me to come speak at the rally today. And they said, well, you going? I said, well, I doubt it because, you know, I got to work. And they said, you need to get your rear end down there. not so nice words, but they said, you know, we supported you, we backed you, so you could be our voice. So I went and talked to my boss. I said, you know, I got an opportunity to get down there, you know. And he said, get your rear end down there. So I got my rear end down here this morning. I left out at 5 o'clock this morning, drove down. And like I said before, I'm just a working coal miner. And I will give President Obama credit for one thing. He got me down here because I had no intentions of whatsoever to ever be a politician. Because to be honest with you, I really didn't like politicians when I started out. And I've got to meet a lot of them and realize a lot of them are just people like us. But you know, the war on coal started when Obama got elected in 2008. 2012, I got elected and came down here because I wanted to make a difference. I was fed up, and I think everybody was fed up with hearing me complain all the time. So they said, well, won't you do something about it? So I let them talk me into it, and here I am. So watch what you wish for. But unlike some of the others, I'm not near as enthusiastic to have President Obama here. I'm not going to mix no bones. I don't like him. I respect his office. I respect the President's office. But what he's did to me and my friends and family is unacceptable. I cannot wait. I cannot wait to watch the evening news tonight when President Obama finds out that he was in West Virginia instead of Western Virginia, and that we are part of we're one of the 53 states that he talked about during his election. So once he realizes that he was in Virginia instead of Western Virginia, I think he's going to think, you know, what was I doing? But all joking aside, I'm here. The only reason I'm here is to stand up for my fellow coal miners. This is personal to me. This is my livelihood. It's my friend's livelihood. Most of my friends are coal miners. A lot of my family are coal miners. And I take it personal. And I get emotional with it. Because You can look anywhere you want to across this great country of ours in this state, and you're not going to find any better people than what you're going to find with a West Virginia coal miner. And the sad part about it all is we're not asking for anything. We're not asking for a handout. We're not asking for any free stuff. All we're asking for is the opportunity to provide for our families, to get up and go to work every day. I mean, that's unheard of in the United States anymore. And that's the only thing we want as coal miners, is the support of our country, our president, to allow us to go to work, pay our bills, pay our taxes, so he can waste them. But that's all we're asking. We're not asking for anything special. We're just asking for the opportunity to do our job, to make a difference in our life and our family's life. That's all we're asking for. Is that too much to ask, Mr. President? And the reason we're in the shape we are with our drugs, like I'm not going to elaborate on it, it's been said enough, is when you have people that are unemployed, you have a lot of problems. And I hope that the people in this state who are sitting around trying to close down coal mines, trying to lay off coal miners, and people sit back and say, well, I support coal, but if that's what they got, if that's what's got to happen, that's what's got to happen. When here in the years, this year, next year, when their programs that they depend on are being cut because you don't have any coal severance tax, you don't have personal income tax coming from coal miners to support these programs that your lives are dependent on, you just remember, you should have thanked the coal miner when you had the chance. God bless West Virginia, and God bless the coal miner. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. It's so good to be here. Like Chris said, my name is Daniel Hall. I represent the 9th Senatorial District, which is Raleigh, Wyoming, and McDowell County, which is coal country. And we're very proud of that. I come from a long line of coal miners in my family, and family and friends that are just being beat to death and scared to death they're losing their jobs, and some of them already have. I don't know how I can follow Randy and all the great speakers we've had already, so I'm going to just make one or two very brief comments. For several years, our area has just been doing all we can to survive this attack on the coal industry. But make no mistake, this is not about just attack on coal. He's attacking the people of West Virginia.
That's right.
You know, we've got thousands of people in my district out of work. Just a few years ago, you could drive through my district and not find a building to rent to put a business in. And now half the businesses in town are empty. Because this is not just about the coal miner. It's about the flower shops, the restaurants, the service centers. All throughout southern West Virginia, northern West Virginia as well, the whole state. This is not just a war on coal, this is a war on West Virginians. And a war on us doing our own things, supplying our own lifestyle and our own way to provide for our families. So he's attacking West Virginians. This president is attacking you, attacking my family. And I for one, don't appreciate it. Now, I will echo some of the comments. If the president can do something about our drug problem, great. We'll take the help on our drug problem. But we'd much rather have a job and the tax base to fix our own drug problem. And he could stay in D.C. That'd be fine with me. And so, without belaboring any more points, our good friend and Senator Russ Weeks is here today from Raleigh County, and he led this fight years ago. But Russ, we appreciate all you've done, and I will pass this off to Chris, and thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate the introduction, but today nobody here is a lawyer or a politician or a Charlestonian or a Boone County, and we're all West Virginians. And we're all here for one specific reason, and that's because we have a war being fought on the people that live in our state. And as a person who loves this country, I will always feel honored when the President of the United States comes here. But I was struck this morning with something my mom used to always say to me when I was a kid. And my mom is the most important person in my life, and she would say when I do something wrong and I get punished, she'd say, JB, actions have consequences. Well, Mr. President, your actions have consequences. They have consequences on the ground here in West Virginia. And it's easy to brush these things off as statistics, right? We can say we have 51% workforce participation. We can say we have a 8% unemployment rate. But at the end of the day, these statistics represent human beings. These are real people who lost their jobs. These are real people who sit at home and wonder how they're going to put food on the table for their families the next day. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I wake up every morning and I grab my 8-month-old daughter, and I look at her and I think, my God, how awesome is it that she gets to grow up and be West Virginia. We live in the greatest state in America with the proudest and the best people. But I can tell you, it's terrifying being a dad of a young baby in this state. And it's hard to keep up hope. But when I stand here today and I look at the faces of these men and women who fight every day to put food on their table, I know that our best days are ahead. Because if you look to your left and you look to your right, you're going to see a man or a woman who takes pride in themselves and takes pride in this state. And if we can maintain that pride, I know that the best years of West Virginia are in front of us. We can all be optimistic, and if we work this fight together, there's nothing that we can't overcome. So make your voices heard, continue the fight, because I know that every person up here's got your back, and we're going to continue the fight for you. Thank you all very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, 456. Can you tell me what that is? If I'm not mistaken, that's how many days we got left of him. Okay? And I don't know about you, I'm willing to write a check to give him his severance and go ahead and let him go today, him and Joe Biden. Put some money together, let him go. Let's put somebody new there. You know, I work in the coal industry. I sell electric motors. And I'm proud to support a coal miner. I come from Buffalo Creek. Live there today. Woke up this morning, drove here. I spoke a few weeks ago down there at the OSM. Some people said I made an ass of myself. But you know what? I was the second person there to only get a standing ovation when I walked out. I was amongst a bunch of friends. There was 27 people spoke in front of me before me. And every time one of the coal miners, the 27 that spoke, the tree huggers was fist bumping and high-fiving every time. Yes, I called Obama a terrorist. He's the one who's played havoc on our coal industry, so he is a terrorist. He calls veterans terrorists. I guess I'm a terrorist too if you call a veteran a terrorist. Yeah, I believe in a few things. I believe in God. I believe in coal. I believe in our guns. I'm not going to stop. And as you can tell, I'm no DC Democrat, okay? I'm old school. I believe in working. I don't believe in giving stuff away because you beg for it. I've got a little 5-year-old. She'll be 6 in January. I make her pick up after herself, and she obeys me and her mommy because that's what it's right. If she gets out of line, she gets a little butt whooping. But ladies and gentlemen, you've got some good people here. Yes, we do have a drug epidemic, and everybody that spoke before me has said it. I'm with them. I do appreciate him coming here to fight that. But as I said a few weeks ago at the OSM hearing, depression is part of our epidemic. And his agencies continue to come in our communities and depress our communities. So what the hell does he think's going to happen? They're going to get addicted. It's time to get him out. And I'm telling you right now, if you don't support coal or guns, you will not get my vote, period. It ain't about a party. It ain't about a race. It's about being a real American. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud that, as Chris said, to have that title as the coal delegate. Someone told me when I first got that license plate, you know, you're not going to make many friends in Charleston. Well, you know what? Charleston don't vote for me. So I'm not worried about what they think about me in Charleston. My people at home has put me back here a few times. Hopefully they'll send me back again because I have promised to fight for coal and fight for our guns and fight for anything else that I've said. I have fought hard. And every one of you has probably seen that little cartoon with that frog having a hold of that bird's throat. And he's halfway down that bird's throat. You know what? He's not giving up, and I'll be damned if I'm going to give up.
I really hadn't prepared to speak, but I've been honored to serve with some of my colleagues like Rupi and Randy, and just felt that I needed to be here to show support. You know, while certainly we're not coal country over in Jefferson County, we certainly understand that it's an important resource for our state, and we can't just stand by while our president and his policies and his administration destroys this very vital industry for our state. Because we certainly see the impacts. As we see the declines in our budget, we see millions of dollars being lost for our school systems and other vital programs across our state. It certainly does have an impact on us. So proud to stand with you and appreciate all of you being here today.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks all of you guys for coming out today. Sorry I was a little late, but I couldn't miss being here. I do represent Putnam, Lincoln, Logan, and where we used to mine coal down in Boone County. Yeah. It is a tragedy what is going on for the people of Boone County. Josh Nelson could not be here today, but he wanted to be here today. I represent a small portion of Boone County as well, and we are trying our best to help the county commission down there manage through the cuts, these severe cuts of coal severance, of having to choose between funding schools and community centers and libraries and garbage dumps. I mean, there's so many services that are having to be cut down there. It is just awful. In addition, all these people have lost their jobs, so they have nowhere to turn as well. And where they do turn is to drugs. Unfortunately, the area is very depressed. In many of my counties, just because the job loss. It's not just the miner, it's the other jobs that go along with it as well. You all know that, we all know that. We need to make sure he hears that when he comes here today, because what the EPA has done, what his policies have done, have affected us. They have affected our state greatly, and they've especially affected my counties. Thank you for being here. Thank you for standing up, and keep fighting. Thank you.